Well, hello, everybody.
Welcome back as we talk about the superheroes of the faith and the patriarchs. We know that, of course, God is really our hero of the faith as he sends Jesus and as he is our Savior. But we have been spending all this time talking about the patriarchs and how they're models for our faith.
And sometimes we have not heroes but heels.
That's true. We certainly see in Genesis that the patriarchs were not perfect people at all. They struggled with faith. They clung to God's promises, but they kind of stumbled their way through it a lot of times. They didn't know exactly how to move forward. And Jacob is a really good example of that. He was the trickster. We saw last time or in previous sessions on how he tricked his brother Esau out of his inheritance, and that wasn't certainly something to use as a model for.
And from the very beginning, when he was being born, he was grabbing his heel.
That's right. Yeah.
His name. So he's a heel all the way through. And then he meets his own kind, his family member, who was also quite the trickster. His Uncle Laban.
That's right.
Yeah. So the two of them together, what a combination.
So he runs away from Esau because he's afraid Esau's going to hunt him down and kill him, and so he makes his way back to his family.
He wants to marry Laban's daughter, Rachel, and that's okay with Rachel and okay with Laban. And he works 7 years, which to him seems not. He loves Rachel so much it doesn't seem like much time at all. And then he's tricked and given not Rachel but older sister Leah. But God continues to bless them anyway, despite the trickstering. God's already decided he's going to be blessing the world through this family. This is one unique family that God has in store for us. And so we've all been blessed. Again, the descendant of Jacob and Rachel is Jesus, and or of Jacob anyway. And that gets a little complicated, doesn't it? But God uses us despite ourselves sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so we know from when God appears to Jacob in his dream, he renames Jacob Israel. So we know that Jacob is the patriarch from which we get the name Israel. But as you said, Laban tricks Jacob. Jacob works 7 years hard to marry his daughter Rachel, and Laban tricks him, gives him Leah. It kind of makes you wonder how those marriages worked back then if he didn't know that he was marrying Leah during the ceremony.
Yeah, were they veiled? And
I'm sure that they were. Yeah,
he doesn't know until the next morning that he's got the wrong wife, and so then it's very, very strange. He complains to his father-in-law, to his uncle Laban. Hey, I said it was for Rachel. He said, oh well, we give the older one first. Why don't you take Rachel too? And so he has to work another 7 years for Rachel. And now he's got 2 wives. And we want to make something very clear at this point. This is not something we recommend. This is contrary to God's will. But what's the amazing thing is even sometimes when we go contrary to God's will, God can still use us for his purposes.
And one of the things that we want to recognize in the Bible is that the Bible is pretty honest about our human sinfulness, and it kind of just shows life in a very realistic way. And we don't always have a lot of commentary on the patriarchs' decisions. We might expect there to be more, and they shouldn't have done this or they should have done that, but oftentimes we kind of just get this realistic picture. They're broken people, they make bad decisions. And the Bible just kind of gives us a picture of that, but it's trying to show us what is God doing, even to use our fallen humanity. God doesn't let this be a stumbling block for his purposes.
So there's a lot to learn from this. God doesn't use people only who are in perfect families. If there had ever been such a thing, God uses people in imperfect families as well. And that's very clear again from Jacob and Rachel and her sister Leah. God used them, used them powerfully. He used their family quite a bit. God does work through families and accomplish
even
a lot.
strange-looking ones, right?
What do you mean?
Even families that look a little strange.
What do you mean as far as relationships go?
Right.
Having 2 wives and that kind of thing?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and so even when we go contrary to His will, God sometimes still would use us and bless us. So that's a comfort for us too. If everything isn't just ideal in our lives, know that God still has a plan for you, and He wants to use you for His purposes. We always want to strive to do what's according to God's will, and when we go contrary to it, we want to confess quickly and change our ways. And God can use us even better then, and much better then. But even if things haven't always gone the way they should, if our families aren't quite the way we'd like to see them, God can still use us and still does use us. God bless your time today.